Why do you say so-called?
Well, sorry.
Because you are a lawyer.
Because in the real sense, I'm talking of the collective interest of the party now.
Yes.
And not of any litigant or any claimant. There was actually no winner. There are losers. The inability to follow the political option of resolving a crisis always has its own cost. One or two people may claim they have won, but in the end, the party loses. The party loses. The party can recover if it learns the right lessons. So the issue of internal democracy is so critical, and I honestly believe, going back to the internal democracy legislation that I sponsored, which by the way also went through second reading, which means majority of my colleagues agreed
with it.
Yes, on the general principles of the bill. I think at some point we may need to tighten the legislations and the regulations about how you become a member of a party, which is a constitutionally guaranteed right.
Right.
How you can be deprived of that membership on given terms and conditions. How you can aspire to an office within the party, and how you can aspire to represent the party, fly the party's flag on any general election. We need to do that. We need to do that so that parties can now be owned by the Nigerian people, funded by the Nigerian people. That's the only time you can have ideological parties where people do not need to bend the rules to be anything. Because if you get these things right, you won't have disputes. I don't see why we cannot do the American way, by which every registered member of a political party votes at any party election,
so
where the presidential flag bearer
will emerge
of a party will go around the country, and all registered members of the party in that state will vote for who, and then you collect the votes. And then someone, once you put, I'm not saying that is the solution, but I'm saying that we need to look at options. From ward councillorship elections, to local government elections, to senatorial, to House of Reps, to governorship, to presidential. We need to review how these things are made, with only one exception. I am a believer that a sitting incumbent, an incumbent who is leader of his party, in very rare cases, you may challenge him. But the general rule, which I support, which was also contained in that legislation that I proposed, is that such a person should be offered a right of first refusal, because that is the leader of the party at the state level, at the national level. You don't challenge the incumbent in the incumbent's own party. If the incumbent has not done well, his party has not done well. The penalty is to lose the general election.
Which means that they will present the person,
yes,
in spite of the fact that they know he didn't do well.
Yeah, but he's the leader of the party. Because in reality, it's very difficult, actually, when a man is incumbent and is leader of the party, to challenge that incumbent
and successfully,
and then expect that you will displace the person. Every party will campaign on the strength or weaknesses, the performance or lack of it, of its leader. So the general election is the examination time. If the leader of the party has not done well, that party should lose the general election, and then the opposition party takes over. But challenging that incumbent within that party, and that was what we proposed in the case of former President Jonathan, when we said it was not right to subject him to a presidential primaries within the party. Once he evinced the intention to go for a second term, we in the PDP have raised the bar to that level, and I think that is the way we should go on, except in very rare cases. Very rare cases, i.e. when the man on his own says, or you persuade him, or he sees the reality on ground, and he places the interests of the party above himself, and he says, look, gentlemen, for whatever reasons, I'm not interested. Then you can have a primary. But if the incumbent, whether it's governor or it's president, says he wants to contest, I think that for democratic stability within the parties and within the nation, my view has always been that an incumbent should have a right of first refusal.
There are those who are still doing almost like a post-mortem of what happened. This was a party that ruled for 16 years, was in control of most of the states, had majorities in the National Assembly and in the state legislature, and in fact had publicly set itself the ambition that it would rule for 60 years. And then there was this conundrum. Now, at the time you mentioned what you mentioned about the whole issue of the incumbent not being challenged at the level of the primaries and all of that, the argument then was that President Jonathan had promised he would do only one term. Now, you are his kingsman, so whatever position you took, whatever the merits of the position you took, it would have been argued that you were supporting your kingsman and you were looking for an argument to make that support logical. How do you respond to that, especially in view of the fact that the party then went on and lost? And some of the members, for example, General Ibrahim Babangida, to whom I spoke, said that the problem was this issue of trust that emanated over, oh, did you say you were going to do only one or you weren't going to do only one? Now, with benefit of hindsight, how do you look at it? Because another election is looming, and for all you know, that we may have similar issues coming up. People are already saying General Buhari too promised to serve only one term, and that by saying he's going for a second term, he's breaking that agreement, if indeed there was any such thing. How do you see it?
Well, let me talk about the PDP.
Right.
2015.
Yes.
The events leading to, I mean, for a historic, monumental event of that nature, i.e. the first time a party that had ruled for 16 years was losing power, the first time a sitting president who conducted an election, who was a candidate, you know, presided over an electoral process, more or less, in which he lost. The outcome didn't favor him. These are very significant milestones in our nation's march towards democracy. And from some of the commentary, sometimes I have a feeling that up till now, we don't understand the significance, the nature of those momentous events. And coupled with the fact that even before the conclusion of the results, a call was made.
And the election was conceded.
Yes, yes. And there was a gracious, very gracious and honorable concession. Very significant. We shouldn't take those things for granted. Now, they say hindsight is
2020.
It's 2020. And we expect as many views and opinions and explanations as there are commentators and participants that you talk with. Each person looking at the elephant from
different sides.
And they may all be right.